Christopher Walken is a kind of enigma. He's never owned a phone, sent an email, or had a watch. But at 16, he tamed circus lions. He spent several years as a moon worshipper, and by now, the Christopher Walken story has become its own genre of lore.
Is it true that in your new movie, Christopher Walken filed his teeth? Oh my God, he is a scary, scary guy.
In '81, Walken's presence during the suspicious death of Natalie Wood raised questions.
Nobody ought to know. There is no real story.
He attended the trial of killer Jack Henry Abbott because I wanted to take a look at the guy, and in Hollywood,
He goes, the great thing in this town is they got young girls and you can hurt them.
many actors have stories of their own.
He goes, you know what fame is? Fame is knowing you could walk into a room, f*** anyone in the ass. That's fame.
And tonight, I'm gonna f Susie Kurtz in her ass.
And he walked away. And they're like, what? What happened?
And that's why he scares me. The way he stares at you when he talks.
That look. Is he the hunted or the hunter?
But the strange story of Christopher Walken
Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin.
starts on a night with Mel Gibson.
What the fuck, dude?
He came to see me on a rooftop. He floated in, sideways, through a crowd of people. He was wearing black, and it was like one of those old vampire movies where they don't walk, but they glide. He just sat down in a chair next to me, and it kind of frightened me. And he's a very smart guy. And we started talking. I just started talking about the Middle Ages, and he began to talk tortures. And we swapped tortures, because I'd read this book on torture. And I tried to recall some of the most heinous things I'd ever read in this book, and he was like, oh, and he'd try and top it. And my assistant was there, and he left because he couldn't stand it anymore. The air had turned cold, and I wanted to leave because I knew that I didn't want to work with him. And he was getting scary. And then I turned around, and it was on top of the Peninsula Hotel. I turned around to avoid his steady gaze at one point, and I was looking at a building with the top of the sixes on it. There was a huge illuminated 666 in red. And I went from that to that to that, and he started smiling. And I thought, oh no, Chris Walken is the Antichrist.
Who are you? The Antichrist.
Yeah, well, that's just the funny thing about kind of synchronistic, but it's humans are afraid of their own bestial, like we have these, like, the primal lust and the primal fear and the primal hunger that are like these reptilian, like, deep in our fucking recesses of our subconscious that, like, force us or like are driving us a lot of the times. But we have the ability to use our neocortex and our mammalian brain to, like, listen to our heart and balance it with our feelings, which is like 777 is the alternative, or 111 or 1111 of these, like, other synchronistic gematrian angel numbers that we see as, like, nicer or kinder, or like the opposite of 666, because we don't want to look inside of ourselves and realize that the Satan force, which is the original Kabbalistic or Jewish way of saying Satan, this oppositional thing, is rooted, like, for our tree of hell to have its branches in heaven. It's got to be, the root's got to be in hell. Like, we are a channel for that if we so choose to unconsciously allow it to manipulate us, which is what this number is supposed to represent. And then if you do the gematrian thing of, like, adding the numbers together, 666, it just simplifies down to the number 9, because 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18, which is 1 plus 8 is 9. And 9 is the occult, alternate, symbolic, satanic number, because no matter what you do with it, you just always get itself, which is like the super crazy, ego-driven psychopaths running the world. All they want is to usurp and switch the highest thy will with their will, or my will. Not my will specifically, but in their case, they'd be like, my will is the ultimate will. Like, not great, not good. I don't know about Christopher Walken, though. I wonder, based on that story and just in general, people in Hollywood are fucking crazy, but they're puppets on a string for sure. There's people above them in the hierarchy, different slave masters, that they're just fucking brainwashed slaves themselves, probably.
You got me in a vendetta kind of mood.
In that interview, Mel Gibson is talking to director Mike Figgis, who also has his own story about auditioning Walken.
I said, have you had a chance to read the script? And he looked at me and he said, do you like my face? And I went, yes. And he said, well, that's fucking great, because if you don't get De Niro, fuck you, I'm out of here. And stood up and walked out.
In the stories to come, Walken confronts other actors in a similar way. But his communication style isn't surprising when you consider his background.
The man I called my grandfather was a charming guy, full of tattoos, but he wasn't really my grandfather.
Walken's real grandfather, Joseph Egan, was a career criminal. After being arrested in 1883, he served a 5-year sentence at Pentonville, a North London prison which aimed to reform inmates through a set of policies we now call solitary confinement. After 9 months in an 8 by 12-foot cell and the rest of his sentence spent doing manual labor, Egan was released. He fathered a daughter, Rosalie Russell, who left the UK for New York, and there she had a son.
I remember when I was in school, when I was told that period is here and the comma is here and that's a question mark. I always thought, well, don't tell me what to do.
Ronald Walken grows up listening to people speaking broken English, and as a result says, I probably speak English almost as a second language. But this doesn't stop him being put to work.
I've been in show business since I was about 5 years old.
My mother was smitten with show business. Television got started, and it all came from New York. There were 90 live shows from New York every week. And they used a lot of kids. They just bring kids in and stick them around like, you know, plants.
We were used as furniture, which you can kind of see in this clip, when at 10, Walken does this theme park bit with Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis.
Hey, come here. Come on, I'll give you a free ride. You do it again. Show this boy. Go ahead.
No, That's terrific, kid. That's terrific.
When he becomes a teenager, Walken is inspired by one star more than others.
There was this girl, and I was crazy about her. And one day I said, you want to go to the dance? And she said, well, I would, but I have this boyfriend. And he's an older fellow. And she took out this wallet, and she had like 12 pictures, and she showed me this picture of this guy. He was so handsome, almost blondish hair. And she said, well, that's my boyfriend. And I said to her, that's not a photograph, that's cut out of a magazine. And she says, yes, and it's Elvis. And I think that Elvis, after that, had a huge impression.
Thank you very much.
Walken restyles his hair to look more like Elvis. And while it changes over time, maybe it's a little shorter or a little longer, the suggestion of Elvis is always there.
It looks like you were almost killed in an elevator accident.
At 16, Walken gets a summer job in a circus show. The lion tamer, who owned the small circus, would do this big act with a dozen big cats. And then he would send them all out at the end, and just leave this one old girl. And I would come in with my whip, and I'd go like that, and she'd sit up. But she was really more like a dog. She was very sweet. Around this time, Walken's primary talent is dancing, which he learns under the stripper and burlesque star Gypsy Rose Lee. Walken.
Dude, I couldn't even imagine actually being a lion tamer, bro. That sounds like so nerve-wracking. But I'm sure like in the beginning it's like terrifying, and then it's just a human's extremely adaptable. We get used to tolerances as we keep like what is it, the type of therapy, exposure therapy, that's the one. Like this just gotta be like an exposure therapy but on steroids, that you just get used to fucking like just cracking the whip and the lion doing the shit, and you're like, all right, well I guess it's not that bad. I guess it's just, it'll just do what I say, and I don't have to be worried about it like being hungry enough to eat me. But like that, bro, it's just crazy. And then the fact that he was like just in it from basically out of the womb, just being involved in show business, it's kind of lends itself to being around a bunch of weirdos. So of course he ended up being crazy and weird. Christopher Walken, dude, what the heck are we even talking about?
Dances with a 16-year-old Liza Minnelli, and after graduating from New York's professional children's school, makes his living dancing in nightclubs and shows. This clip is from slightly later in his career, but you get a sense of just how good he is.
Dancers are really interesting. There's something pre-dawn of history about them. I mean, they communicate very fast and without necessarily words. Singers always took tremendously good care of themselves. And the dancers were the ones that never went to bed. They drank, they smoked cigarettes. I had a lot of fun.
In the clubs, vodka becomes the drug of choice of Walken's youth. And it's also in the clubs where he makes his name.
I worked with Monique Van Voren. I was in her nightclub act, and at the end, she used to introduce us. And one night she said, "I'm going to call you Christopher." And I said, "You know, fine. Don't call me late to lunch."
And so it stuck.
But while Walken is successful as a dancer, as an actor, for now, he isn't.
I played Hamlet 3 times, and I never was much good. Romeo twice, not very much good. Richard II, and that was really awful.
I used to get criticized because I always turned to the audience and talked to them.
To support himself, Walken also works as a janitor at New York's Actors Studio, where he takes acting classes, and where, finally, he has a breakthrough under teacher Lee Strasberg. When someone offstage dropped a large box of dishes, Walken went right on playing the scene. Everyone jumped except you, Strasberg said. You didn't even react. Yes, Walken replied, I was concentrating. That's not concentrating, Strasberg countered. That's bad acting.
I thought concentration was zeroing in.
That's bad.
But concentration really has to do with noticing everything.
Having 360-degree vision, not missing a thing, both on and off camera. While filming his first feature, Me and My Brother, Walken is warned about the industry he's getting into. He is, quote, a young actor talking to an older actor. I'm not going to tell you who. As I was leaving the room, he said, Chris, be careful. I walked out the door and don't think a day has gone by that I don't think about that. Be careful. Every day I think that, and I don't know what he meant. Given Hollywood's reputation, this warning isn't surprising. But in any case, Walken, like many other creatives, spends much of the 70s experimenting. For one, Walken spends a period of time as a sort of religious fanatic, a moon worshipper. Spent several years with that, and then it passed. After which, he remained very close to the moon, but I don't make myself miserable about her anymore. Later, while filming The Deer Hunter in Thailand,
it's hot, humid, and the bugs and everything, and the monkeys screaming. And
Walken tries Chinese opium. I didn't know what to do with it, so I ate it. And this makes him sick because, according to his doctor, the midnight oil had been cut with water buffalo dung, hence the intestinal bug, which lasted a long time. For the final film, Walken wins an Oscar.
Christopher Walken in The Deer Hunter.
But after the opium experience, he's put off God's medicine for good. He still experiments with other drugs like LSD until the mid to late 80s, but at that point he stops, reflecting, I don't do it anymore and wouldn't even be inclined or tempted. When it stopped being interesting, I stopped being interested in it. Kind of like the moon, it was a relationship. We gave up on each other. Walken ends his experimental years for the better, but it's also during this time that he's involved in a harrowing case.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the healthy relationship that you should establish with every substance. Eventually, that like they run their course, and if you, because the people who can't put them down or put them away, that we all get concerned about, like, you know, the quintessential or the fucking ideal dictionary definition of what an addict is. That if you can't stop the relationship with the substance or the activity or the behavior, and it's to your detriment, like you can. I don't know, dude. I don't know how. Still don't know how I feel about the people who run ultra marathons. Like they've pushed generally a sort of healthy activity of physical activity to such an extreme. Like, is it really good for you? Like, are your knees gonna fall apart? I don't know. David Goggins' knees are apparently made of fucking steel. Some crazy shit where you're just like, nah, that guy. Nah, it's possessed by a demon. Definitely on some level mentally ill, but I don't know. Not what we're talking about. Back to the program here.
On November 28, 1981, Walken joins actor Robert Wagner and his wife, actress Natalie Wood, aboard their yacht, the Splendor. For context, Robert is known for TV shows like It Takes a Thief and Heart to Heart, in which he plays a wealthy amateur detective, Jonathan Hart. Natalie, who arguably had a higher profile at the peak of her career, is known for West Side Story and Rebel Without a Cause with James Dean. Most recently, however, she co-starred with Walken in Brainstorm, playing the wife of his character.
But you have to promise me that you'll never leave me again.
Aside from Walken, Wood, and Wagner, the only other person aboard the boat is Dennis DeVerne, the yacht's captain, whose testimony will later be revealing. On the evening of the 28th, the group docks at Catalina Island. At 7 p.m, they dine and drink here, in this booth at the Harbour Reef restaurant. When at 10 p.m, the party leaves to return to the yacht, they appear intoxicated, so the restaurant owner called the Harbour Patrol to assure the group reach the Splendor safely. Once they do, on the boat there's more drinking, and according to later testimony from DeVerne, the tension on the boat was unbearable.
The tension was building throughout the whole weekend of Robert Wagner being jealous of Christopher Walken. He was just getting to a boiling point.
According to Natalie Wood's sister Lana, Natalie was infatuated with Walken.
And we all went inside the boat and opened a bottle of wine, and the jealousy was just getting so tense that Robert Wagner had picked up the bottle of wine and smashed it right in front of Natalie and Christopher on the coffee table.
Reportedly, while arguing over the direction of Wood's career, Walken defended her independence, which led to Wagner smashing the bottle and yelling, "Jesus Christ, what are you trying to do? F*** my wife." In this documentary, Wagner admits to smashing the bottle. He also maintains that after the argument, Wood went to her room, and he and Walken cooled off on the deck. The captain's story, however, is different.
Natalie was devastated, and she went into her stateroom, and Robert Wagner had followed, and they were arguing in the stateroom. Then the arguing went on to the aft deck, and moments later, everything became silent. So I thought that maybe they were making up and going to go to bed, and that was going to be the end of it. So I waited for a little while, and I decided I'm going to go down below. I'm going to go to the aft deck and just see if everything's okay. Robert Wagner was standing there, leaning his back against the back of the boat, facing the boat, and he said that Natalie was missing and would I go search the boat. So I immediately went to my stateroom, thinking that maybe she went to my stateroom because she felt maybe that she was safe there. Well, I came back and I told Robert Wagner that Natalie was nowhere on the boat. So Robert Wagner, he said to me that the dinghy has gone too. Well, I just knew that Natalie was so deathly afraid of the water and not really capable of taking that boat by herself. But he said the boat was gone and she was gone.
Later, at 1:30 a.m, an alert is sent from the Splendor back to the restaurant. A search begins, and 6 hours later, Wood's body is found a mile from the yacht, near Blue Cabin Point on Catalina. Wood is face down in the ocean, wearing a plaid flannel nightgown and argyle socks, and she is pronounced on 07:44 hours. When Wood's autopsy report is released, it presents some obvious causes for concern, namely the prevalence of bruising. The right forearm showed a 4-inch by 1-inch diffuse bruising on the lateral aspect, and few bruises on back of hand. The left wrist showed a slight deformity, and there was also a superficial fresh bruise in this area 1/2 inch in diameter. There were multiple small 1/2 inch to 1 inch fresh bruises in the left anterior lateral thigh, a 2-inch recent bruise to the left knee, recent bruises to the right upper leg and right ankle. There was also superficial abrasion in left forehead, left brow, and the left upper cheek area with an upward direction. There were recent bruises to the back of the left thigh and fresh bruises and scratches to the right posterior leg. As you can imagine, after this report came out, rumors began to circulate that Walken or Wagner, or perhaps both, might have had something to do with Wood's death. Walken, however, tells police he was asleep when Wood disappeared, and after 12 days, on December 11, the investigation is closed, with Wood's death ruled an accidental drowning. 2 years later, in an interview with Entertainment Tonight, Walken gives this response.
Do you think that the real story of Natalie Wood's death has actually come out?
The real story of her death is that she drowned. And nobody knows how she drowned or what happened except her. That's what it is. There is no real story. Nobody ought to know.
And to a lot of people, this response feels off. Of all the roles Christopher Walken has played, this interview is the performance that chilled me to the bone. The only word of truth that came out of CW's mouth is when he says nobody'll ever know. Juping Delight's smirk tells me he knows something. In 2011, however, Captain DeVerne reveals that he had originally lied to police, and that after Wood's disappearance, Wagner told him not to turn on the floodlights to search the water. We didn't take any steps to see if we could locate her. It was a matter of don't look too hard, don't turn on the searchlight, don't call anyone.
I thought, well, let's turn on the searchlight and let's just see if we can see her. So after that, he said no.
Because of the new testimony, the case is reopened. In Chief Medical Examiner Lakshmanan Satyavagiswaran's addendum to the autopsy report, he states the fact that her stomach contained 500 cc of partially digested food materials supports the opinion of the time of death being around midnight. This means it took a whole 90 minutes for the Splendor to send its alert at 1:30 a.m., which is consistent with the captain's story.
I said, let's turn on the searchlight to see if we could see her.
Have you ever wondered if buying something small could truly keep Israel alive?
Fuck no.
And he said, we're not going to do that. He said, no. And I said, well, let's call the restaurant. He said, we're not going to do that either. So we stood there and I was just devastated. I think I was actually in shock. And after a couple hours, I said, we have to call the restaurant. So we called the restaurant.
The new examiner also concludes that the location of the bruises, the multiplicity of the bruises, support bruising having occurred prior to entry in the water, with a non-accidental mechanism for certain bruises.
I think she was dead when she hit the water, unconscious, and when she hits the water, I mean, she said there wasn't any water in her lungs.
The cause of death is then changed to drowning and other undetermined factors. To this day, employees of the Harbour Reef restaurant, such as one who spoke to journalist Andrew Chamings, have reportedly been told not to talk to anyone about that case. Management told me, if you answer the phone and they ask about Natalie Wood, you have no comment. Presently, no criminal case has been launched, but the captain stands by his conviction.
I think the argument got out of control, and she was knocked unconscious by a physical fight from Robert Wagner and put in the water.
You believe when you were standing on the back of that boat and he said, don't turn on that searchlight, you were talking to a murderer?
Exactly.
You believe Robert Wagner murdered Natalie Wood?
I really do.
But we're never gonna fucking know. We're never gonna fucking know, dude. That's like, probably from this. I don't know. Like weird that the captain changed his story like later, however many fucking moons into the future after it already all went down. Like, I don't know. It's definitely sketchy, and there's probably some amount of like coercion or like, hey, I'm powerful and paying your bills, so you better not fucking say shit about me murdering my wife on your boat. And it's way too long. It's happened in like the 70s, like 50, 60 years ago almost, that like, what the fuck are we supposed to do about it now? All the DNA is probably like way too degraded. You can't like go and look and see if there's blood from the struggle in the room or like what actually happened. And was Christopher Walken really asleep? Like we just gotta believe like their job is to pretend. So like how are we supposed to take any of these motherfuckers seriously? It just seems all real crackhead sketchy to me, but I don't know one way or the other. Exactly. This whole the perfect thing. No matter what character I'm playing, it's me. It's under it all, and that's always how I felt. Stylistically, and the small amount of acting that I've done in my lifetime, that like you don't really escape the creation of the character. The person you're playing is still it's your interpretation of what you think the character is supposed to be. But yeah, so your moral fiber and quality kind of like sticks into the role of what you're pretending to be in that moment. But I think we're gonna wrap it up right here for part one, and we'll do a part two. It'll come out either it's already out depending on when you're seeing this, or it will come out tomorrow. So yeah, for now, just put a feather in our cap and call macaroni, baby. Namaste, have a great day. Slap shoot if it's nighttime soon. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Keep the algorithm satisfied. If I don't see you while I'm alive, I'll catch you on the flip side after I die. Until then, stay true, ta-ta, and toodaloo, ladies and gentlemen.
How can it be